Hi, welcome to Roboflow training movie. In this training movie, I will show you how you can modify the asset reference in the vault, in a vaulted record. Imagine that I have a vaulted catalog, and if I do a show location, my file is in a certain location, and then at this point it is found by the record. Now it could be that for some reason you need to move the vault, or that there is you want to rename the folder where the vault is, or you want to rename the catalog. In all those scenarios, it might become a little bit tricky doing that in another way than with Roboflow. So imagine that I want to call this, instead of test1, I want to call this, for instance, my test. So I want to rename this catalog to my test. The procedure of doing that is the following. First, we go to the preferences of the catalog, and in the preferences of the catalog, you must make sure that it is not set to always and exclusive, because always and exclusive might trigger some automatic renaming or moving of assets. So make sure that it is only set to always. Then here I change the name from test to my test. And now additionally, this file is still called test1. Additionally, I want, of course, this for future records also, that the target folder is, I selected Amazon S3. That's not good. So let's cancel this. It's, of course, the normal Vault asset store. And I take my Vault, and then currently it was pointed to this test folder, so I'm now going to point it to a new folder. So anything new that gets cataloged will go to my test. So now we have prepared the catalog. It is very important to remember not to have anybody working in this catalog. So it might be also a smart thing at this point not to share it and not to allow web access to it. And so that is very important. So if you have a look at this point, it is my test, my test. If I do a show location at this point, the files are still found. Could be for some reason in your scenario, if you're moving the vault or whatever, that it is not found, but in this case it will still find it because we haven't fixed or changed the folder name of the vault. So here is my vault folder, and so what I am going to do is I'm going to call this my test. And so from this point on, there is a remark because it says, oh, carefully, you have already a folder called my test. So I say no, and I say, okay, this is my test. Bad. And then I change this to my test. Okay, so now everything is prepared, and now we will see if I do show location that it will no longer find the assets. It's searching for it. It's trying to find it, but it's not finding it. Okay, so now I can go to my workflow, and I have prepared a workflow, which is a hot collection workflow, which will fix and save the XML asset reference. So what I do is I select here a catalog, and I used this catalog from a previous version. Notice that this still says test. So this is related to the fact that Roboflow has already opened this, connected to this, so it doesn't see this particular this particular catalog yet. So I need to stop and start all workflows so that it can make a new connection and can get that particular catalog. So if I go in here now, it should find the my test and no longer see the test. Next thing is that you can determine to do only a part of the catalog. Maybe you want to do only one record or two records or whatever. So what I am going to do in this case, I'm going to find here, and in find I'm going to try to find test1, and I'm going to replace it by test. This is a very simple find and replace, but be careful. This is just an example. I will show you later in the XML file that it is safer to use backslashes surrounding it to make sure that you just get that particular part. But I will show you in a second. So as a precaution, this workflow exports the asset reference, the XML asset reference, to a file. So if there's a mistake, there could always be another workflow importing this back into the record, fixing the asset reference. The workflow itself is pretty straightforward. It's creating that target folder, it's picking up the record ID, the asset name, the asset reference, and then it's testing if it has the asset in the asset reference, if it has that particular piece of text that we're looking for, and if it does, it is going to replace it, and it's also going to write this file to a text file, and this XML asset reference to a text file. So all this is nicely going to be executed when we run the workflow. So if I say start, and I do a show log, so it says record 1 found and replaced, record 2 found and replaced. So if I now go to the record and I do a show location on the record, it immediately finds the file again. So it's back in ship shape, everything is fine, and we were able to move the vault in a very, very quick way. It updates maybe 20 or 30 of these records per second, so that goes very quickly. Here in the result, if we go and have a look in the exported asset reference, and then there's probably here in this folder, there's these two records that just have been added with the name of the asset, the ID. In a previous test, this workflow was used to fix special characters in a name, but this workflow has been slightly modified to be able to get to the folder path. And so if we have a look at the asset reference, this is how or what the asset reference looks like. And so what is very important is that so this is the two parts that require replacing, and then all you need to consider is, am I going to replace this and this? If you want to do that, then the safest way of doing that is putting the smaller than in front of it and then changing it to my test, so that you are sure that you're picking up this piece, because the word test might be somewhere else in your path. If you don't want to change this part, then you should, for this part, make sure that you're picking up only this part, or if that you're searching for this, and then you're certain that that can not go wrong. But I think it's probably best to make sure that both of them are updated. So what you need to do in that case is you change this to, the other one, this, okay, and here in the replace, you also do it like this. And then it will do exactly what it just did. But now you're a little bit safer that it's not detecting the word test1 somewhere in the middle of the path of any subfolders or even in the file name. And so that's a more secure way of dealing with that. So thank you for joining this training movie, and hope to see you in another one.